I have never in my entire life experienced the level of concentrated stupidity that I experienced in the story that I'm about to tell you. Unfortunately, it is a bit long and, as I mentioned previously, really stupid. I therefore do not want to take the time to memorize this script that I have here so that I can read it to the camera while looking at it. So to save time, I'm just going to directly read from my script. I'm sorry you're not going to have my beautiful eyes staring deep into your soul, but there you go. As you likely know, I'm not unfamiliar with people knowingly or unknowingly misrepresenting me on the internet, but this is the first time that YouTube's own screw-up caused this to happen. On November 10th, 2023, I submitted a takedown notice to YouTube because someone re-uploaded one of my videos. A fairly standard procedure, usually met with no resistance, and something I've done for years. This time though, YouTube wrongly rejected this notice, then proceeded to, for months, ignore literally every email sent to them by me or my lawyer, instead firing back an automated response every single time. It wasn't until a month and a half later, on December 24th, 2023, that someone at YouTube seemingly noticed this irregularity and sent a further email stating, "Hello, please disregard the previous message," that being their most recent automated response. "We've received your complaint and determined it requires further examination. We'll get back to you once we've completed our review." It took YouTube a further 3 months to finally respond on March 20th, 2024. It was at this point they finally actually read the case and took down the video I submitted a takedown notice to, something they should have done on day one. What a colossal shitfest. If this dispute had remained private, that would have been one thing, but YouTube's error and lack of review of this case led to some of the most dishonest and downright disgusting people to lie about me repeatedly to the masses. These people were ignorant of most details, so they just made shit up. What they did know and didn't like, they just selectively ignored. So that's a basic overview of the story, but let's get into the nitty-gritty details. On November 10th, someone posted in my Ask Me Anything Discord, "Are you going to respond to this guy?" And he linked the video, "DarkViper is seething about Jack's film stealing his thunder." Obviously this title being clickbait and not representative of my actual emotional state or perspective. To this I said, why would I respond to a re-upload of my video? What this user had linked was a recently uploaded reaction to my video, "Am I jealous of Jack's film's success with credit the creators?" This reaction being done by the reactor, ChudLogic. I came to learn that Chud hosts watch parties, group discussion sessions, of other people's creative works quite frequently. He plays the original video in full, without alteration, traditionally ignorant of the contents of the video beforehand.
I wanted to watch this because... oh, wrong thing. Here we go. Apparently this video is very funny, so I guess we'll see. Let's watch this video. So it's, "Am I jealous of Jack's film's success with credit the creators?" As
I have explained to death, this overtly violates fair use law, which surprisingly Chud was willing to admit multiple times in his reaction.
Obviously, I am biased because I do react to things. I, feel I do a fair use job, even though not legally, but ethically, I kind of react to stuff pretty heavily. Because legally, I think that all of them fall under the same issue with, full reacting to the content that exists. Like, if you watch a 30-second TikTok, right? I don't think that's a big deal. And I think ethically or morally, it's not that big crazy a thing. But from an IP perspective, you have breached that person's IP and they could legitimately file a DMCA request against you if they wanted to. Same with Asmongold Reacts. Yes, he talks a lot, but it includes the entire video.
Of course, I don't really care that it's illegal. I care more that it is grossly immoral for reasons I have also explained to death. I have no problem with commentary content, people making their own videos that require some use of other people's work for context. In fact, there are even some limited cases where I am okay with reaction content. For example, if you want to react to your own work, or other people's work that you are personally involved in. I am fine with people watching advertisements, and often even live events, assuming you're an official rebroadcaster. It is the people sitting around watching other people's videos in order to re-upload them to YouTube and avoid any work themselves that I dislike. Consequently, I filed a takedown notice of the re-upload of my work and the live stream it was in. I have done this in the past without issue, but this was the first time I had to do it since I made my videos explaining in great detail the market harm of reaction content. I submitted both notices around the same time, the live stream still being public at that point. I only note this because some believed I did them separately and that the live stream was unlisted. Some people seem unaware that it does take time for YouTube to process these claims, giving time for a live stream to become unlisted. It is also possible that it was unlisted, but I found it via a playlist. I honestly don't remember. This event wasn't particularly noteworthy at the time. Some people, particularly stupid people, asserted that I attempted to take down Chud's re-upload because of things he said alongside it. I apparently didn't like that Chud criticized me. Not only did I not know this person at the time, but I gave about as much thought to this strike as a person gives to flicking a fly off their shoulder. It appeared as if this person's main claim to fame was being a sentient potato.
right?
If my thumbnail being included in the reupload doesn't suggest the quality of this video, I suspect the question, raped by Jack, and the person being named ChudLogic gives you as much understanding as you need. I think my lawyer said it best when she unprompted stated that Chud seemed to express absolutely zero understanding of a single thing I talked about in my video. This obviously makes it very hard to care about what he said, let alone what someone that stupid has to say about anything.
People think he's an obsessed schizo. I mean, I'd never speak to this freak. There's no fucking way. He's a despicable, pretentious want nothing to do with him. Loser. He's a fucking loser. He's pathetic. He's a pathetic little fucking wretch, as far as I'm concerned. Wait, what? What does that mean? I don't even understand what he means by that. What difference does that make? How is that a different thing? I don't understand the difference. Why does that make a difference? But yeah, no, he's a fucking despicable little I really dislike this guy. I think he's a piece of shit. Yeah, I don't know. I just think he's a little rat. He's just got this like autistic obsession. It's obviously long because this guy's an autistic freak. This guy is a little autistic freak who types out essays in DMs. He's extremely pretentious. What an autistic little unlikable freak he is.
My only interest was whether or not he re-uploaded my video in full. Obviously, I had better things to do with my time. If while watching my video, he had discovered the cure for cancer and whistled the solution out his ass, I still would have struck him because, as I've made abundantly clear, I find reaction content grossly immoral and harmful to the ecosystem. This is something I have not kept secret. In fact, I've shouted from the rooftops for half a decade, making any other conclusion as to my possible motivations bewilderingly stupid. When I struck the video, my expectation was that it would go through as normal, Chud might be dumb enough to dispute it, which would mean we would go to court and we could get our first case that would specifically judge watch parties in regards to fair use. The guidelines, and every case related to fair use I'm aware of, suggest you could not use a fair use defense for hosting a watch party of a copyrighted work, but most people seem unaware of this, so maybe this was a chance for people to be informed. To my surprise, my claim didn't go through and YouTube requested more information. So I answered their questions in full, to which they immediately rejected my claim. This was confusing because YouTube is not a legal body. It has no authority to declare what is or is not a violation of law, or what violations of copyright can be defended by an affirmative defense of fair use. It makes sense that public pressure would embolden YouTube to reject obviously frivolous claims, but in this case, literally my entire work was re-uploaded on another person's channel, and they have always taken down such instances before. In the re-upload itself, the person states that they do not believe they have the right to host a watch party of my work. They openly admitted their guilt. Despite this, I had no luck poking YouTube with a stick to try to get information out of them, and lacking any evidence I was not just getting automated responses, I asked my accountant who works with a lot of high-profile creators if they knew any lawyers who do the same. I was referred to someone and I got into contact with these people. It is important to understand that these conversations were happening in normal people time, not internet time. It took 2 weeks just to get a lawyer and explain to them the situation, and in that time, an insanely deranged shitstorm was happening on YouTube and Twitter. I'll be honest, I didn't pay much attention to it as I was busy, but one of my moderators did gather information for me to give to the lawyers. ChudLogic alone made 21 tweets and 4 videos about me. He even got himself temporarily suspended for saying suicide is too good for me and those who watch me. Even now, he is still crying like a child for getting caught re-uploading a video. For some reason, he is just incapable of making his own shit. Weird. In fact, while making this video, my lawyer called me to state that they watched Chud's recent livestream that covered his video getting taken down. They did this largely as a formality to assess potential impact to their firm. To loosely quote their assessment, "What an absolute moron." It is shocking that someone can openly on one hand admit that he knows nothing about the law and legal procedures, yet also confidently assert as true things that even a child should know are wrong. They further reiterated that I could sue him for obvious defamation, which again I expressed I have no intention of doing. Chud does not even have enough money to cover my potential legal fees. I do admit that it was somewhat inhumane for me to subject a normal person to the creature that is ChudLogic. No one should have to listen to themselves be called a stupid bitch a dozen times. However, it was interesting listening to a normal person be somewhat frustrated having to listen to a moron misunderstand and lie for clout. Welcome to my world. She further expressed her annoyance at YouTube's bot-run system, as she knew that if she could have just talked to a person for 5 minutes, this would have been resolved 4 months ago. Apparently there were 25 tweets and 20 videos made by others that were noteworthy as well, but obviously this is just a small snapshot of the conversation a little cesspool of the internet was having. Now at this point I had not said anything publicly, and people seem confused why. But if any of these people had even 2 brain cells to rub together, they wouldn't have been so confused. Chud leaked the statement I gave to YouTube's bot when it rejected my claim. I said outright that I was fully willing to go to court for this issue, and when you may go to court, it is in your best interest to shut the fuck up. As my lawyer pointed out, much of the shit other people said rose to the level of defamation, and I would be in my legal right to sue many of these people, especially Chud. Fortunately for them, I am both not litigious, and honestly, it is unlikely any of them have enough money that even if I took it all, that I would even notice having it. It was only after realizing this process of getting YouTube to actually read the claim was going to be slow that I decided to write my own tweets debunking some of the more obvious falsehoods, much of which I've already covered in this video. So we're now 2 weeks in, and I now have my lawyer. They agreed I had a case, and so submitted a formal DMCA takedown request to YouTube. They cited relevant legal statutes and cases, and expressed their willingness to argue the case in court, which is necessary for filing a takedown anyway. Surprisingly, they got the exact same automated response I did. This obviously confused them. So they sent another message to YouTube, and again got the same automated response I did. My lawyer, while on the phone with me, expressed their annoyance saying, I don't think they're actually reading the emails. Hey buddy, welcome to my world. There was of course little else to be done but just to try again. My lawyer sent a message that was the legal equivalent of motherfuckers read the goddamn emails, and they still, again, got another automated response. This time though, they quickly received another email from an actual person where they retracted their previous automated response and said they would look into it. This being the December 24th email that I read to you in the beginning. So we waited. And waited. I am being a bit dramatic here. I just continued to work as normal and largely forgot about it. It wasn't like waiting for YouTube was costing me anything at this point. And waited some more, for a response to a case that was clear-cut from day one, until eventually we got tired of waiting. And I just so happened to have gotten a new YouTube partner manager, so I asked them to remind the copyright team that they still had not responded to the case. This led to them finally coming back 4 months after I filed the claim, where they said they would take down the videos. What a colossal shitfest. So what does this all mean? Firstly, DMCA as a mechanism for combating reaction content is not without its hurdles. Getting YouTube to read an email from a prestigious law firm on a fairly basic issue cost about $3,000. This of course would be pricey for the average YouTuber. Fortunately, it meant little to me. The second takeaway from this situation is that even if you have every right to file a takedown notice against some content, there is still the potential for backlash. The general public, and hell, many YouTubers, are grossly uninformed and misinformed about these systems, and as I have painstakingly argued in my videos, the harm that reaction content represents to us all. With all that being said, since I made the claim against ChudLogic, I have struck 2 almost identical reaction videos, with one being accepted immediately and the other not. The one that was not accepted though, just required a basic follow-up email to YouTube, and then it too was taken down. To be clear, these were taken down before the resolution with ChudLogic, so they were unrelated. But it's obvious these systems need more qualified human oversight. So that covers all the main events, but there is a bit more. I found someone kind enough to sift through all the garbage to find the more noteworthy videos that attempted to cover these events. The first was made by TomDark, aka TurkeyTom, who is a drama commentary YouTuber. The handful of his videos I've seen over the years makes me suspect that we would disagree about pretty much everything on most topics. However, his video was largely neutral, even if disagreeable in large part because Tom put forth no effort into learning about my viewpoint on reaction content. I get the sense that Tom treats most of this stuff like a game, and he doesn't really give much of a shit about most things either way.
Today we're going to be talking about DarkViperAU. He's been talking about the exploitation that some reactors like XQC and Hasan Piker enact on YouTubers when they watch their content on their streams and don't really add anything.
I dislike when my view is characterized by a disagreement over people adding to the content, as this is what others complain about but not me. It would be irrelevant to me if the video XQC was watching was about what it was like to live with severe brain damage, something he could provide sincere insight into. It would be equally as irrelevant to me if Hasan Piker was watching a video about how to exploit people for fame and fortune while being a lying hypocrite, something that appears to be the only thing he actually has expertise in. It wouldn't matter to me because addition is irrelevant to my issues with reaction content. To give a very, very brief summary, my issues are with the market impact of reaction content. We have 2 groups of people, reactors and creators, but only one of these puts forth effort and incurs risk and cost. Both, however, end up with the same product for the market, even if one might spend a month and another million hour to achieve that. This is quite obviously not a fair or balanced system. In regards to viewer distribution, I view Reactors as an inefficient secondary middleman. You can picture this as 2 competing models, one where viewers engage with algorithms and are directed to creators, and another where viewers engage with algorithms, are directed to reactors, and then go to creators. My claim is that that second model is inefficient by design and can only result in a net loss of value for creators as an aggregate. Reactors give value to creators in a similar way that slot machines give wealth to their users. They take from them far more than they ever give back. That is, after all, their purpose, and both reactors and slot machines would cease to be if they failed to do that. Reactors exist to increase the time people spend watching reaction videos, and by necessity, reduce the time they spend doing anything else. They are not designed to give value, they are designed to extract it. As far as the value given by reactors to viewers, all that value can be given through other forms of content and thus is irrelevant. In other words, XQC and Hasan, if they can manage to extract their heads from their asses, can make their own bloody videos. Much of the rest of Tom's video expresses confusion why I would strike a reaction video from a small channel that would at best only have a small impact on me. But anyone who knows of my work would understand that I view reactors as parasites that extract value from creators. Therefore, anything that impedes that extraction gives some benefit to someone, even if it isn't me.
Now, this video is a reaction to Dark Viper. Make no mistake, like it is a reaction video. He watches the entire thing in full. But it's 35 minutes long, he adds a lot of commentary, and the original video was less than 10 minutes. So by that metric, about 26 minutes of the reaction is made up of commentary from Chud, where he transforms the original content.
Tom uses the word transformation as seemingly a synonym of addition, but it's not legally or how the word is generally used. To use a silly example, here's the turtle from Super Auto Pets. Now I'm gonna add a hat to it. It's still a turtle. The turtle hasn't been transformed. It is exactly as it was before. There's just a hat on it now. In the reaction, my content is still there, unchanged, in full. It's like if you compared watching a movie by yourself or with a friend. Comparatively, absolutely, your friend can add something to that experience. You might enjoy yourself more, your experience would be different, but the content of the movie would not change even slightly. It would never be transformed, regardless of how many times you pause the movie to shit talk it. What Tom is expressing here is a general principle not meant to be specific to this case. So we could take the Lord of the Rings trilogy, for example, which required thousands of people over many years and $500 million to make. To remain consistent, Tom would sincerely have to believe that I could reproduce that movie in full as long as I paused it every once in a while and gave my thoughts. I honestly find it hard to believe that he could sincerely believe that. While it is somewhat unimportant to either my or Tom's views, an interesting thing to note is that for the first time in 30 years, a fair use case actually made it to the American Supreme Court in 2022. To very briefly cover the case, the issue is whether this photograph being altered to look like this resulted in a new artwork with a different character and purpose, thereby constituting fair use, or whether it remains substantially similar to the original work, merely serving as a derivative work that infringed on copyrights. The district court judge said this was fair use, but when it was appealed, the Second Circuit judge came and said no, this was not fair use. It then went to the Supreme Court, where 2 of the justices said it was fair use, while 7 of them said it was not fair use. So you could say in the totality, 3 of the 11 judges called it fair use, while 8 of the 11 said it wasn't. People seem to wrongly have this idea that if you just add something to someone else's work, then it is immediately fair use. I am sorry, but that just is not the case. If you want more information, I have an entire series on it, but every decision in regards to fair use is against the idea of watch parties specifically being fair use. Some other things people stupidly call reactions, like commentary content, can be fair use, but not watch parties. How skilled you are at pressing the pause button and having a discussion with your chat is entirely irrelevant. To be fair, that doesn't mean definitively that there isn't going to be some hallmark case in the future where the guidelines of fair use are somehow going to be redefined so that the written words mean the opposite of how they have been interpreted in the past. Even legal professionals do disagree on fair use. It is simply that right now, nothing supports watch parties being fair use, regardless of how many times you press the pause button during it. No amount of watering down the idea of transformation will ever change that. One of the things that I tried to stress in my main thesis is that no one actually cares about fair use as it is written in the law in any region. They don't read it, and they just assume their own values are codified into law. We will see examples of this later. In my experience, people usually believe there is both value in incentivizing people to work and rewarding them for it, and that people should freely be able to express themselves by building upon what others have worked to create. Fair use is ultimately putting a line that balances these two often competing ideals, and as laws in different countries place it in different spots, it is impossible to agree with fair use law as a totality. People just support the things they like and want to exist, regardless of what the law says. They only reference it when they rightly or wrongly believe it gives them credibility or can serve their goals.
It could be fair use, but I just can't say for sure. It hasn't been taken to court. I'm not the fair use expert. I think there's an argument maybe to be made from ChudLogic that under the fair use criteria, it's not technically, legally fair use. But honestly, I don't really care because I'm somewhat critical of this part of fair use law. In my opinion, you should be able to play someone else's entire original work as long as you add to it.
It should be obvious, but I fundamentally disagree with the perspective Tom puts out here, and I am confident that my series argues quite well that his position is untenable. In a world where there is no cost placed on copying, whether that be legal or social sanction, actually doing the work to create something will generally put you in a worse circumstance than those who just copy what others have worked to create. In a world where doing nothing and working result in the same reward, Only working has a cost, and I believe that is fundamentally bad for society. This is made even worse when comparatively doing nothing results in an even greater reward than working does.
If you're reviewing an album, I think you should be able to play the entire album, every single second of it, so long as you're constantly adding commentary. If the viewer wants to go listen to that album, and that album alone, it's extremely easy to find that on YouTube for free in the same way that they would see that review. But if they're watching your review, it's my belief that they must want your commentary, not just the commentary of the original piece. They want to see you react to it.
Music will always be a bad example because a song can be listened to hundreds of times. You can still be listening to the same song decades later. To use a counter extreme example, imagine I spent the afternoon drawing dogs. Then I made myself a bot that automatically downloads every single game on Steam and then adds my drawings of dogs to the loading screens and then re-uploads all those games back to Steam but lists them at 50% off the cost of the original game. I am adding something, Tom. My dog drawings are right there. I would be very surprised if he was supportive of such a thing and didn't see it as exploitative. Steam certainly wouldn't let me do it.
Chud made this video where he called Dark Viper a spurg, basically, right? For 35 minutes, he called him a spurg.
He's such a bitter little man. That's just what all I get from this, is this guy's a bitter little autistic freak. When there's been plenty of opportunity for him to get his message out in a much more amenable way, in a much friendlier way, in a way that people are going to accept it more. But he's obsessed with this idea that, no, I've got it right. And actually pumping out massive DMs to other creators is the way to deal with this.
Not only have I only DM'd exactly one reactor, that being XQC, people's response to half a page of text may be the biggest indictment on the attention span of people today. Wait until these people find out how long the average YouTube video is. Do you know how long it takes to speak half a page? 2 minutes. I appreciate that Tom kind of acknowledged how dumb this double standard is.
And I was pretty much on his side. I think he was going a little autistic about it with the like paragraphs on end and people's messages. But then again, I am the like 2-hour-long video guy, so can I really talk about like autism in any way? It's just different for me because I read it off in a video instead of, you know, DMing it to people. Even if you are like a big DMCA guy, right? Like, are you just gonna like DMCA every single clip someone posts of you on YouTube because it's not technically fair use? Like, what kind of precedent is this setting? Like,
we each use the law not to the maximal degree that we can, but exclusively when it helps us achieve ends we desire. For all I know, it could be illegal for the kids in my street to run on my lawn. I don't know if it is because I don't care if they do. In the same way that I don't usually care if people use clips of my stuff or make memes of my work. I don't care if people make their own videos responding to mine and need to use parts of my work for context. That is all fine. But I will combat the harm that reaction content does in any way that I can.
Since then, ChudLogic has been going hard on Twitter, calling his fans insufferable freaks, pulling an old clip of Viper saying the gamer word that, according to Chud, he DMCAs off of YouTube. Here's a clip in which Dark Viper says
the N-word.
Seems like this hasn't been widely seen before. That's because Dark Viper allegedly DMCA'd the person who uploaded the clip to YouTube. To be clear, I don't personally care about the word. I just feel it demonstrates Dark Viper's willingness to use the DMCA system to take things down he doesn't like, rather than to remedy breaches of copyright.
I have referenced the existence of this clip at least a dozen times, but more importantly, I am the rights holder. Of course I'm going to take down the things I don't like that serve no constructive purpose and keep up those I do like or serve some purpose. While I do take down all full re-uploads of my videos, for clips, it depends on the usage. This particular clip exists for no other purpose than to allow people to disingenuously attack me with it because of the mistake I made when mimicking Franklin due to my surprise at the randomized dialogue. Again, I am the rights holder and therefore have every right to take it down. A clip by itself is not transformative in nature by any definition. That this clip has now been used in a video as a matter of public discussion, whether or not I have the legal right to do something about it is irrelevant to me, because as much as I don't like it, the usage is still fair to me. Tom, I'm going to give you the highest possible praise I can give anyone related to these events. You are not dumb, just misinformed. If you want to talk to me publicly or privately about React content or this case, feel free to email me or join my Discord and DM me. While you do probably deservedly have a shitty reputation, of all the people who made videos, having a conversation with you is the least likely to see me want to kill myself to escape it. The next video is by the creator Bowblax with his series Twitterverses, where he apparently is meant to encapsulate both sides of a feud on Twitter. In reality, he created what was easily one of the most dishonest videos I've ever seen, where he signal boosts any disgusting or false claim he can find and actively ignores everything else. This assessment is not just my opinion, but the majority opinion, to the degree that he apologized in a community post and made a second video to make things more balanced. I sincerely doubt the one-sided slanderous nature of his first video was a mistake, but it is rare where a video about me is declared shit before I even see it. He starts off his video with the clip of me many years ago accidentally saying the N-word, and he then adds on an out-of-context insult where I was mocking Reactors' insane justifications for ignoring consent. Such effort was taken to include no context that this sentence was copied from my essay, moved somewhere else, and then screen captured just to make sure no words surrounding it were included.
DarkViperAU is so against reaction content, in fact, that he attempted to false copyright strike a creator called ChudLogic for making a fair use 35-minute reaction to his 9-minute video.
We can immediately see the difference between Bowblax and Tom. I think Tom was wrong, but he admits to the ambiguity even though he disagreed with my actions. Bowblax out of the gate, 100% false claim, absolutely fair use. Even Chud himself was not willing to definitively say it was fair use after the fact, and in his reaction he declared outright that he didn't legally think it was. In other words, this is staggering levels of dishonesty from Bowblax. I also want to point out that Chud is apparently from the UK according to his profile, and I am from Australia. A legal judgment of fair use would not use the American legal system. I am honestly less familiar with the UK system, but I have heard it is considered to have weaker fair use laws than America.
DarkViperAU, the most pathetic specimen that he is. DarkViper has a level of autism/schizo energy that concerns me. DarkViperAU is a total degenerate loser, zero talent, whines constantly, will engage in mass flagging and DMCA to shut down his critics. This dude is a total fucking lolcow if Nick responds true, laughing my ass off. Absolutely pathetic cretin. Lol. Over 3 times the length, laughing my fucking ass off. What a joke. I don't know, bro. Ask YouTube. Lol.
Seriously, these people are children.
LOL. Dude is a total scumbag. He should get on a call with Chud and hash this thing out like an adult. ChudLogic then sees this picture and tweets it out himself with the caption, "Very sad to hear DarkViperAU is currently undergoing tests for gay turbo AIDS." Nick responds, "True," laughing my ass off. "Is it true you put on a t-shirt in response to me calling you a vest-wearing bitch homosexual?" ChudLogic shares a tweet of DarkViperAU with the caption, "DarkViper in literal tears after watching some gay fan video on Reddit. I am not joking." He then ats DarkViper and says, "Bro!"
I feel Bowblax and Chud mocking me due to my being emotionally overwhelmed by the kindness shown to me by my viewers shows who they are more than any words I could possibly say. Again, this is the entire video. Bowblax specifically looking for people insulting me or making the most obviously false claims, signal boosting them, and ignoring everyone who was explaining why these claims are false. A small bit of my faith in humanity was restored when I read the comments, for at least most people seem to realize how much of a deranged hit piece this was.
And of course, that clip wasn't taken off of YouTube because DarkViper only wants to strike people who are mean to him on YouTube.
To be clear, Bowblax is asserting without evidence that I strike people who use clips of my content if they are mean to me. He is asserting this in a video where he is being mean to me while showing clips of my content. The logical disconnect there is astounding. He is either a liar, a moron, or both.
ChudLogic also tweets out this community post from DarkViper and says, "I had no idea what a pathetic sad sack DarkViper is. A few years ago he was truly miserable, down to the core of his being, over some sort of dumb speedrun drama? Can't even figure out what he was so upset about here. I'm about to cut a mountain of videos on this freak." He then shows the community post where DarkViper links a Twitch clip and says,
What the fuck does any of this have to do with anything at all? How did you make this and not think I am now reading a copy of a post from years ago about something no one knows anything about, or because a guy named ChudLogic linked it on Twitter? This is the sort of moment you look in the mirror and think, holy shit, what am I doing with my life? While I have somewhat brushed over it, I feel this represents the insane level these people dug through my life. I was surprised I didn't find them digging through my literal trash outside of my house. This was all just really sad.
ChudLogic continues to clown on DarkViper when he shares this clip of him and captions it by saying, "Here's a clip in which DarkViper sang N-word with an A."
Alright, let's now go to Michael's house to do, again, some random bullshit. Oh.
Train's coming to a stop. You in the chopper? Why don't we meet?
Oh, he's back in the city.
It's not a big deal, but maybe we just keep this between you and me.
Let me do this. This one. I gave him a weapon.
Nigga, bullshit.
Bullshit. Alright, wait. I said it with an A. Fuck! I was just mimicking what he said. God damn it. Oh no. I think contextually, and that it was with an A, I should be okay, chat. I'm not saying the stream, but you ain't gonna see that on YouTube. Oh no. That is now the second time in 9,000 hours where I fucked up and done that. It's just instinct to mimic what they say. God damn it. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see what mission this is. I'll be honest with you, I still find that clip very funny, even though I do recognize that it is a risk to my brand.
ChudLogic isn't the only one clowning on Dark Viper, as Nicholas DiOrio—
The Nicholas DiOrio? The guy's so fragile that he blocked me that time despite that we'd never spoken? This man's bringing in the big guns, mate. I'm done for.
Nick responds, true, laughing my ass off.
I want to highlight this tweet from WillyMacShow.
WillyMacShow responds to Tom by saying, I agree, especially coming from the fair use guy.
In my work, multiple times, I have specifically laid out that my criticism of reaction content has nothing to do with fair use. Willy here showcases how none of these people had any interest in watching even one of the videos I've made outlining my thoughts on this topic. Yet even despite being aware of their ignorance, they don't care, they still make claims like this one. I actually DM'd WillyMacShow and said, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm clearly not the fair use guy. He shit you not said, bro, if you're not the fair use guy, why are you in my DMs talking about fair use? Like if he called me the king of Lego and I messaged him and said, hey, I'm not the king of Lego, what are you talking about? For Willy, that will be all the confirmation that he needs that I am actually the king of Lego. None of these people, when wanting to understand my positions or why I was doing what I was doing, thought to look at the entire series that explains exactly that. I sincerely cannot fathom that level of stupidity or indifference to the truth.
Luckily, YouTube's copyright system isn't completely broken, and there are circumstances where YouTube will not put through the strike.
None of these people feel that YouTube's copyright system works well or that YouTube is flawless. But when it makes a decision they agree with, immediately YouTube is a perfect authority. We know it was fair use because YouTube said so. When YouTube does something they don't agree with, YouTube isn't an authority on anything. But when it does something they agree with, it's an authority they can listen to. So in reality, YouTube is never an authority. They're actually just referencing their own belief to substantiate that belief in a form of circular reasoning.
He definitely could have false copyright striked Chud's channel and put it at the verge of termination, which is completely unacceptable, especially considering this guy is trying to advocate for and talking about the nuances around transformative reaction content. To misuse copyright like this not only makes him look like an asshole and a piece of shit, but also shows that he doesn't actually know what he's talking about in regards to his criticism of reaction content.
Bowblax never even attempts to argue why my claim was false, why Chud's use was fair, or why I'm apparently a copyright abuser. He doesn't try to do this because his claims are bullshit and he likely knows that to some degree. Now that YouTube has rightly acted on my claim, I'm sure these guys will come crawling to me with apologies. Obviously not. So that was the conclusion of his impressively garbage video, but of course there was a second one that eventually came out. At this point I had made a few tweets on the issue, so his video necessarily wasn't as one-sided.
So in my last video on this topic, I talked about how the small streamer ChudLogic had the larger streamer DarkViperAU attempt to take down his channel by filing a copyright complaint to YouTube for ChudLogic's video reacting to DarkViperAU's 9-minute video with 20+ minutes of extra commentary, even saying that he'll sue him if YouTube doesn't follow through with the copyright complaints. But they didn't, so...
When you file a DMCA claim with YouTube, you are affirming that you have a legal case that you will pursue if necessary. Many people claimed that we can't really know if Chud's use was fair without going to court, to which I said, okay, I will go to court, and this apparently broke their minds. Not that there was much to break anyway. I think this insanity was best expressed by my conversation with Xanderhall.
But a couple days later, he did give the answer in response to Xanderhall, which happened because Called Rocket tweeted at DarkViperAU saying, "What's up with that copyright strike, you hypocritical sack of shit? Man, I listened to you." DarkViper responds, "If you listened, you were either deaf or didn't understand." Xanderhall quote tweets him and says, "I hate ChudLogic and all, but this is genuinely disgusting. Imagine being so convinced your standard of fair use is the only correct one that you threaten to sue if YouTube doesn't agree with your copyright strike. Please chill the fuck out so I can enjoy your future GTA 6 videos." DarkViper responds, "To be clear, you find it weird that a person who wants to file a legal claim believes themselves correct in their justification for doing so and is willing to go to court to argue in favor of their claim? Buddy, wait till you find out what DMCA in the legal system is for. Or is your genuine disgust directed at the idea that I don't trust YouTube to assess claims related to copyright? A position held by seemingly half the people on this website. Seems sensible given that YouTube has no legal right to make such assessments and acts in self-interest." ChudLogic then makes a slightly more serious response when he shares this clip and says, "Cope homo nonsense! He was terrified to even discuss this publicly. I hear on the grapevine, he has been in the DMs of various content creators running desperate damage control."
This was just me talking to WillyMac about him calling me a fair use guy. Despite that we had never spoken before, we did already follow each other on Twitter, so I figured why not. The reason we followed each other is because of that old adage, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Both of us think Hasan Piker is a blight on humanity and have made efforts to explain that to others. Obviously I am likely more left-wing than he is, but we do agree on at least that much.
I know a lot of you guys in the last video were upset about the lack of me showing the other side of the argument in the last video about this, which I do apologize for. I should have searched harder for people advocating for DarkViperAU.
What do you mean search harder? Every post had people defending me. You didn't just not find them, you actively ignored them and lied to your audience. So Bowblax's videos were a combination of sincere malice and stupidity. This next video by Optimus lacks the malice, but it makes up for it with even more stupidity. Is DarkViperAU abusing copyright to silence critics? ... question mark?
I don't know, man. I feel like it's pretty cut and dry. Like, we already kind of have established standards for how content creators in the community are supposed to act towards one another, and quite a big point that's not necessarily unspoken, but just kind of like comes with the territory, if that makes sense, is the idea that you don't falsely copyright claim or realistically just kind of copyright claim anyone's content for any reason that's not for copyright related issues.
Clearly it was for copyright-related issues. In fact, my claim specifically outlined all the copyright-related issues. You'd think that while Optimus is making up so-called unwritten rules, which are actually just the way he personally thinks people should act, surely he should add to that list that you shouldn't be re-uploading other people's videos. Especially when they make abundantly clear that they don't want you to. No? Not gonna add that one to the list? It is abundantly clear throughout this video that these so-called unwritten rules are just Optimus's way of skirting the reality that he can't actually defend his perspective, and he therefore just asserts consensus, which is a weak argument even if you can demonstrate it, which obviously Optimus can't. Optimus even notes all the people that defended me by saying that uploading another person's video in full is not okay.
And for those of you who are going to come in here and make the argument, oh, well, what Chud did was not fair use, blah, 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 you can't just take someone's video, because that's like kind of what people are already trying to defend Dark Viper with, right? Is, oh, well, you can't just use somebody else's video, you can't just upload somebody else's content, you can't just take someone else's shit, so...
But you see, to Optimus, these people aren't a part of the so-called unwritten rules club, so they don't really matter.
And unfortunately, a lot of creators, this is what they do, you know, they don't like a video that somebody makes about them, they don't like a video, whatever, you know, and the first thing that they'll do is they'll try and get the video copyright claimed and taken down.
Dude, the video had 1,000 views. You are saying these words while in the process of making a video that you don't think I will like, and you do this without a single bit of fear. You obviously don't trust YouTube. You don't know whether they'll take down your video and strike your channel if I ask. Either a part of you must know that I would never ask YouTube to do that, making you dishonest, or you don't understand how your own actions conflict with your statements, making you an idiot. At this point, there might be like 100 videos critical of me on the internet. I guess in Optimus's mind, in my 10-year career, I just never noticed any of those videos, so never had the opportunity to strike them down.
DarkViperAU, which honestly is actually a creator I enjoy. I watch a lot of his Grand Theft Auto 5 videos in depth about the lore and whatnot, so I actually like this guy. I enjoy his content, but the coverage, obviously, of DarkViperAU's video in the first place was a little more negative, okay? It was a little bit more critical from what I've read and what everything is saying here. So that might be the potential motive for why DarkViperAU would have struck the video or like claimed the video.
How is it possible to know of me of any degree, hell even watch my content, then see me strike a reaction video, something I've campaigned for years as harmful to everyone, and conclude that I took down that reaction for any other reason?
Is because basically Chud was, I guess, somehow being too truthful or like was being too critiqued, you know, whatever you want to say.
Chud being too truthful. Are you serious? Did you even watch his fucking video? Watching it would have helped you, Optimus, because he had no idea what he was saying, and he may as well have just repeated over and over again that I had super AIDS. Like, Optimus, if you knew nothing of Chud, just scroll his Twitter for like 10 minutes. The idea that anyone in existence could sincerely think that Chud is capable of forming coherent thoughts is insane to me.
A few years ago, he made like this big post or whatever about React content which in it he essentially compared React's streamers to people who go around in real life and drug and rape people, so...
I just wish every person who makes that claim would care enough to go back and read my old essay. Charlie apologized and we're cool now, but goddamn did it take me a really long time to get over how I'm going to have to listen to this bullshit repeated from people who have never read or listened to a single thing I've ever said on the topic. Hasan Piker will say things like, they do consent, they absolutely would consent. You know, if he imagines you consent, then you do. Or he'd say, if I had to ask for consent, then I couldn't do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted to. Or he will say, look, if the person finds out what I did, didn't like it, and later confronts me about it, I just won't do it again. That's basically consent, right? When I mock these statements and say, if you heard someone speaking like this, you'd cover your glass and move to the other side of the room, people act like I'm coming entirely out of left field, and the statements I am mocking are not absolutely fucked up, which goddamn, yes they are. I am sorry, but these statements deserve to be mocked, and the people making them are pieces of shit, and in the context of my original essay, these references are still perfectly fine. Would they have made it into the final cut? Probably not, it was after all a draft, but I would only have removed them to avoid knee-jerk reactions, not because these analogies fail to effectively highlight how fucked up these statements are. To be clear, I was mocking statements about ignoring consent, not drawing direct parallels between reaction content and sexual assault. This of course is not news to anyone who read the essay. If I wanted to say reaction content was the same as rape, I probably would have just done that. You know, the essay would have contained the words rape or sexual assault at least once.
I think it's important to talk about, right? Because, I mean, I think it's dumb when people get into these fucking DMCA arguments, right? I mean, sure, I'm certain as a creator myself, it's not fun when other people make a negative video about you or they critique what you have to say or whatever. But that's part of what this whole thing is, man. Like, that's part of the job here, right? So it's a genuinely pathetic move to just use the copyright system as a way to try and get rid of people criticizing you. I mean, if you're gonna voice your opinion and you're gonna put shit out there online and talk about things, you have to be willing for people to talk back and like actually address it.
When I found the time, I literally spent months responding to videos critical of me, tearing them to shreds. This is obviously how I traditionally respond to genuine criticism. The level of uninformed you'd have to be to suggest that I take down videos because they're critical of me is baffling.
Ultimately, this whole situation would have never have happened if DarkViperAU did not issue the copyright claim.
Or, a guy could have just not re-uploaded my video. He obviously could have watched my video in his own time and then talked about how much he didn't like it. He didn't do that though. He just sat on his fat ass and hosted a watch party for it. It's like Optimus thinks I'm mind controlling people to force them to sit on their asses and host watch parties of other people's shit. Optimus apparently is going to watch The Lion King on stream tomorrow and be like, you can't sue me, Disney! You made me do this! Delusional.
Based on pretty much any real interpretation of fair use, I mean, what Irrational Chat or ChudLogic here did was fair use. I mean, the original video by DarkViperAU was like 9 minutes long, okay? Irrational Chat / ChudLogic or whatever takes that video and then spins it into a 35-minute video responding to it, which is 4 times as long as the original video. It's a critique / commentary video, which is expressly protected in every definition of fair use. I mean, anyone with a fucking brain can tell that this is a pretty clear case of fair use based on what we're seeing here.
I will never understand people who have never in their entire lives taken even a peek at the guidelines of fair use or read any of the relevant cases who seem very confident what is or is not defended by fair use. Merely adding to the length of the video does not constitute fair use. Let me just be lazy for once. Let's talk about fair use in regards to commentary and criticism as explained by Stanford. Commentary and criticism. If you are commenting upon or critiquing a copyrighted work, for instance, writing a book review, fair use principles allow you to reproduce some of the work to achieve your purposes. Some examples of commentary and criticism include quoting a few lines from a Bob Dylan song in a music review, summarizing and quoting from a medical article on prostate cancer in a news report, copying a few paragraphs from a news article for use by a teacher or student in a lesson, or copying a portion of Sports Illustrated magazine articles for use in a related court case. Now compare this to sitting on your ass, watching an entire creative work that you are completely ignorant of when you start, pausing it occasionally, and then re-uploading the entirety of that creative work to your YouTube channel. This is not the kind of commentary that they had in mind when they wrote these rules because it didn't even exist back then. When commentary and criticism is referenced, they're talking about like showing a scene of Lord of the Rings to establish the sort of scenery used, not re-uploading the entire movie while you watch it with your mates and shit talk it. Like seriously, just pick one. Read the guidelines, the H3H3 case, Jessica Vogel's commentary on fair use, the recent Supreme Court fair use case. Hell, just chill and watch a Legal Eagle video. You would have to be actively dodging information about fair use to be this ignorant of it. It is hilarious to me, as dumb as ChudLogic is, even he wasn't this dumb.
It doesn't matter what % of the original content you use or whatnot, as long as it's transformative, that's fair use.
I shit you not, one of the factors that judges the transformative nature of a work in regards to fair use is literally called the amount and substantiality of the portion taken. Or as YouTube puts it, the amount and substantiality of the portion used relative to the whole copyrighted work. You don't even need to know what the factors are about, you can literally just read the headings to know that you are wrong. This is embarrassing. As I tried to highlight in my series, most of these people know nothing about what fair use law actually defends and just use their own personal standard as to what they think is acceptable and call it fair use.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where if you don't feel like you're doing something wrong, what is the harm in explaining something that you've already made publicly knowledgeable about, right? Like, you've already, the cat's out of the bag. You already let the world know that you issued the copyright claims.
Taking the time to explain my rationale during a live stream where the audience may know as little as you is obviously not going to do me much good. Besides, with no response, these idiots were lying and tweeting up a storm. It seemed foolish to intentionally spur them on to splurge out even more.
I really don't see him going out of his way to spend countless dollars to probably lose a court case on established law. So, I don't know, man.
You don't think I'd do that because you've never read this so-called established law. One of the few court cases on anything relevant, the judge stated explicitly that his ruling was not a judgment on all concepts of reaction content. Furthermore, in the explanation as to why H3H3 won their case, it implicitly explains why watch parties would lose. Also, again, I am Australian and Chud is apparently from the UK. My case would apparently be even stronger in the UK. In conclusion, when I wrote my main thesis on reaction content, some people criticized me for being very basic with a lot of concepts. I hope now seeing the mental capabilities of some of my detractors, you now understand why it had to be that way, regardless of how dry it made that video. I'll be frank with you, this entire experience was boring, even if it wasn't particularly time consuming. With that being said, there were a few silver linings. I now have legal contacts, and as I have in recent months taken down 3 reaction videos, I now can confirm that YouTube will still take down reaction videos if asked. I suspect this level of whiny stupidity that I experienced will be fairly unique in my career. Rarely does a person admit multiple times to guilt and then still cry on Twitter. I have not experienced this before, so I suspect it's less about the situation and more about ChudLogic being fucked in the head. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best.